In this video, we will be looking at creating and executing a playbook to create NSX controllers. So first, a little bit about the playbook. Again, the NSX Ansible modules use API calls to the NSX Manager and vCenter APIs. And if you ever look at the API documentation, quite often you have to present information to the API in order to get the information you want back. And one of those types of information that is common with the API is this management object identifier, MOID value. Those aren't the easiest thing to find in the GUI, or not the most common thing. And so there's a module that is dedicated to helping you find the MOID values. And depending on the parameters you feed the module, it will give you back a different MOID value. And so in this playbook, it consists of several tasks. So if you look at the first 3 tasks, they're about gathering these different MOID values. So they all share the use of the same module, vCenter gather MOIDs. And so the first one grabs the cluster, second one grabs the data store ID, third it grabs the port group ID for the port group where you want to deploy the clusters. Next, there's a task to create the IP pool that is used to assign IP addressing information to each of the clusters when they are automatically deployed by NSX Manager. And finally, the task to actually initiate the creation of the cluster itself. So let's just quickly look through here. There's a few different values that you have to populate into your playbook for the OneCloud users. These values in the GitHub site should be exact. For anyone who's built their own lab, it's good to check these values to make sure they're correct for your lab. So the hostname, username, or hostname of my vCenter environment, username and password for the account that is authorized to execute these calls, and then you can see the key difference again between the 3 different tasks. The first task here that use the gather MOIDs module is what parameters you feed them. So you see the first one, we want the cluster MOID, so we give it a cluster name. Right. The second one, we want a data store MOID, so we give it the data store name, right, which you can easily get from your vCenter environment. And finally, when we want the port group, the parameter that we feed it is the port group name. The controller IP pools are pretty straightforward. You give it the start and the end IP, the prefix, gateway, DNS servers, the same exact values you assign to any host as you're configuring them for IP connectivity. And finally, to create the clusters, we're saying that we're going to, the state is present. This notion of a present state is very important in Ansible and this item potency principle. We don't say install this cluster. We say that we want the cluster to be present. So that way, what if we were to run this playbook that represents our configuration state, and what if these clusters were already deployed? Well, this task is telling them to make sure that these clusters are present. If they are not present, then make them. If they are present, then don't make them. We're doing a deployment type of a lab. If you go to the documentation here, it goes through these variables in more detail for each task. In this case, lab, we want to deploy a single cluster. Not a single cluster, a single controller. You never do that in a production environment, but in some cases for lab, if you have limited storage resources like I do in this case, it helps to preserve resources to deploy a single controller. And the IP pool ID, this is an automatically gathered value. So when the task creates the IP pool, we register this controller IP pool, and that automatically creates this or gathers this value called IP pool ID. You see controller IP pool right here, controller IP pool. And then the resource pool, data store, and network MOIDs are the ones that our first 3 tasks gathered. And that's that. And now we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and create the playbook. Let's copy and paste. I'm just going to copy the playbook directly from GitHub here. And what do we call this? Create controllers.yaml. So let's vi create controllers.yaml. I'm going to type in I. You can see that puts me in insert mode. I'm going to right click to paste this. Looks like I got a nice clean paste, so I'll press escape and type in the colon. You can see the colon down here, and I'm going to type WQ for save or write and quit. Okay, now we'll type in our Ansible playbook, -i hosts, and create controllers.yaml. Oh, whoops, you see I got an error here, and I scrolled over it, and it looks like I didn't copy and paste the entire playbook. So I'm going to pause the video, fix that real quick, and come back to execute the play. Okay, after that copy-paste error, I clean this up, paste it in again. Looks good, so let's try this again. And press the escape key, then the colon, and then type WQ for VI. And now that's saved, and let's go ahead and try to run that play one more time. There we go. It looks like that was the problem. And you can see it's running through these first couple tasks here pretty quickly. We can see we got a changed value on the create IP controller pools. Now as it goes to create the cluster, this is actually going to initiate or have an NSX manager spin up a new controller virtual machine. So this task may take a couple minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and I will return once this is done. Okay, we're back, and we can see that the play has completed running successfully. And if you look here at our GitHub site, we can see the run the playbook and our output from running the plays just like it is in the training module. And notice we have OK5, change 2, and most importantly, unreachable zeros fail 0. Right? There are 5 tasks that ran. All 5 of them were OK. Those 5 tasks only resulted in 2 changes though, right? These first 3 tasks here were gathering IDs. So those just gathered information. They didn't result in a change, right? These last 2 tasks, they were both okay, right? They completed successfully, but they were also changed, or they also resulted in change because we created a new IP pool and we created the controller cluster. So now let's go ahead. I'm going to open my remote desktop connection to for me this is in my OneCloud environment. This is my control center, but whether this is your laptop or a jump host, it's the computer that you access vSphere web client from. So now let's go in here. I'm at my home page. Let's just pop into hosts and clusters real quick, and we can see the controllers there and it's running. Go back home. Let's go into networking and security, and then we'll click on installation. And we're right here on our management tab, and we can see under NSX controller nodes that we have a controller. It is working with this NSX manager, and the status is connected. And that is it. We have successfully used Ansible to deploy our controller. Thank you.